Welcome everyone, thank you for joining me today. I'm a guy called Joe. This is Bootstrapping Tools, and in today's video we're going to be going over how to build a simple CRM using Retool and Google Sheets. You probably already use Google Sheets. Great application. Spreadsheets are just awesome. They're so flexible and versatile. The only problem with it is that it's not exactly the best user experience. It's just a bunch of data just thrown in your face. So if you're saying, managing your clients or all of your leads in one spreadsheet, it can get pretty gnarly. We've done a couple of things in the past on Bootstrapping Tools where we show you how to make drop downs and also automate a couple of the tasks for it, so checkboxes and all of that. But you can only do so much because you are just working off of a spreadsheet. That's actually where a tool like Retool comes in. Retool is a low-code platform. Low-code meaning that you don't have to write too much code if you have to write any at all. Retool, you have to write some for Retool, but it's really simple. But a low-code solution, just a lot of things are already pre-built for you. Therefore, you don't have to write things from scratch. You can actually start off from like level 5 instead of starting off from level 0. So if you haven't used Retool before, you're going to learn how to use it in this tutorial. We're actually just going to go through a pretty basic version of it, and then we'll do some more complicated stuff later. So first off, Retool, this website is www.retool.com. You can check it out. Like I said before, they have like pre-built components that you can use, and they make it pretty easy. There are a lot of different data sources. A lot of people use them already: Peloton, Amazon, Plaid. Allbirds, a lot of people do, and you can see it's just really drag and drop tool. That way you can focus on your data instead of building out an application. I've used this a lot for admin tools or internal tools for the various companies that I've worked for, and it works really great. That way we don't have to depend on the engineering team to build us all these internal tools that we need right away. So once you sign up for an account though, you're going to get onboarded. It's going to give you a very short tutorial, and it's going to just throw you in there. They give you some sample apps to begin with: onboarding, sample G Sheets, users page, just to get you started. If you click on resources is what they call like the data sources. So basically the data that is going to power your applications. They have a couple that's already installed for you just based on the sample apps that they give you. But what we're going to do today is we're going to connect our own Google Sheets account. So you can kind of imagine as like we'll be using Google Sheets as our like pseudo database, and we're just going to slap a UI or a user interface on top of it so you can manage that data a little bit better. And that way we're going to be able to take our CRM, our basic CRM that we did in a previous tutorial, this guy over here with the sample data, and instead of having to go through all these drop downs and checkboxes ourselves and start moving things, and then having to probably build other tabs just to see how many leads were under our individual salespeople or in certain plan types or whatever, we can just do that through a UI instead. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect a new data source. So we'll click on create new, make sure you're in the resources tab, click on create new, and then you're going to see a bunch of database options and then a bunch of APIs. So you can see here, it supports a lot of databases. This is a very powerful tool. And then for the APIs, they also have a lot of API integrations. The one that we're going to focus on is Google Sheets. So when you click on that, we're just going to give it a name. Let's call it Google Sheets. And then we're going to give it the read and write option as opposed to just read only. You could do read only if you just want to display information to people and just let them browse through it, kind of like making a catalog or something like that. So if you were building an application to give to your analytics team or your investors or something like that, then you can just do read only, so they don't mess with the data and they can just read a bunch of stuff, and you can power charts and all that, basically make it interactive. We're going to do read write because we're building a basic CRM tool here, a very simple one. We're naming it Google Sheets because the way that this works is that it connects directly to your Google account, and then that means any Google spreadsheet that you have access to under your Google account will be made available through this connection. So you don't have to name anything specific. I'm not going to name it basic CRM because it just has the access to all of the Google Sheets that I have. So we'll do the connection here. It's going to ask you to authorize. You do the authorization. You select your account, go through the basic authentication that you normally would. It's just like a social login. And once that's done, you're gonna get the green success for it. There is a staging option, but you have to pay for it. We won't worry about that. We're just gonna save this. And now Google Sheets is available as a resource. So we go back to resources, you'll see here Google Sheets is now available. So now that we have a data source, we can start building an application on it. So we'll go over to apps, and then they do have a 5-minute quick start guide. It doesn't dive into as much as what we're going to dive into here, and they actually don't even talk about adding in a resource. You can, I would say, do it. It's always good to do their quick starts, but as you want to build a little bit more, it'll be good to kind of dive into more complicated builds. Just search YouTube for it. There's a few people doing it right now, but of course, if there's something you'd like to see, let us know. Put it in the chat, or send it to feedback@bootstrapping.tools, and we'll make a video out of it just for you. But back to the point here, we're going to create new, and then we're going to create a blank app. They do have a lot of templates. We're actually just browsing through it before. They don't have anything for a CRM necessarily for what we're trying to do on a Google Sheet. They do have some CRM-y stuff for Salesforce if you're using Salesforce, but Salesforce is pretty expensive. So I'd say if you're like a small business owner or someone who's just starting out to start the company, you probably aren't on Salesforce yet. But if you are, all the power to you. We can help you out with some builds there later on. But for now, they don't have anything as far as the template goes for what we want. So we're just going to go back out of this, and then we're going to create a blank app. We'll give this app a name, Basic CRM, just to match it with our Google Sheets name here. And then we'll call it G Sheets just to make it clear. So once you create the app, it's going to generate a table for you, and then it's going to source the data from one of their sample data sources. We don't want this, so you can actually just click on this and then we're going to say Google Sheets. This is the one that we just added before, and then it's going to ask you how you want to connect it. So let me enlarge this a little bit for us. So we're going to read the data from the spreadsheet. We don't want to do the other stuff to it right now. We're just going to read data, and then you can either choose a sheet from the dropdown, or you can use a spreadsheet ID. That's actually what we'll do here. Remember, the spreadsheet ID is the ID that's right before the /edit in the URL. So once we copy that over, we'll drop it in here. And then we're going to take the sheet name, which is leads here, and drop it into the sheet name section. If you do that, hit the preview button. It should give us a bunch of data. Perfect. So exactly what we want to see. What we have in the spreadsheet. Close that out. We'll hit save and run. Minimize this, and now our table has all the information from our spreadsheet, which is perfect. There are a bunch of options on the right-hand side tray over here. You can display it in compact mode. You can do show add row button if you wanted to, and that's just like add new information to it. You can download the data. There's a bunch of options here that you can check out. One thing I do want to show you, because this is actually pretty cool, this is the type of stuff that we're going to want to do to make it easier for us. So let's say, no, we already showed you how to do this, add in a drop down, but let's say you didn't want to do the drop down within the Google Sheet, right? Or you didn't know how. With Retool makes it pretty easy. So if you go over to your field, so this one is lead status, you click on it, and then now it's going to let you decide what you want to do with it. So column type, instead of default, you can say this is a drop down, and then from there you can say what the values of that drop down are supposed to be. So we have closed, new, active, I think Juan was another one, and then lost. So we can start with that. I think that's all we had. Should go back here and see what we had. New, scheduled, closed, and lost. Okay, so we didn't have one, so we had closed. So we'll go back here, update this. So we had closed, we don't need that, so we need scheduled. That's the one we're missing. Scheduled. There's 5 of them. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In progress. That's the active one. Okay, so then instead of active, we'll say in progress. So that's as easy as it gets. So now with the drop down, oh, did I save that? Oh, be sure to put that in square brackets, like an array, so that's so they'll be recognized in Retool as options. Click on that. Now you have a bunch of those options here. You could rearrange it if you wanted to. Rearranging is just, you know, doing it in that list. So instead of close being the first one, we can move it to the second to last. And then we actually had scheduled as the second item. So we'll move that up like so. And if you wanted to make this a little easier to read, you can add new lines to it. It's not going to really affect the UI because Retool will just read it like so. So now we click on this and you have new, schedule, in progress, closed, and lost. And you can also expand it if you wanted to so that it's easier to read. You can just see like Retool drag and drop interface, you know, very intuitive. It's very easy for you to go in here and just like mess around with things as opposed to the spreadsheet. So we can do something similar to the categories. Let's actually skip that for now. I want to see what else we can do here. One of the things that is nice is being able to filter the data sets. So let's actually, instead of naming this query, let's call this raw leads. I'm going to see why I did this in a moment. We're going to do new resource query. Let me expand this. And then we're going to call this query filtered leads. And so instead of doing resource Google Sheets, we're going to select query JSON with SQL. If you're not familiar with SQL, it's just the querying language that you typically use for a database. Select from and where is your basic core of it. So select star means select all the columns. From is the data source. So the data source that we want is raw leads. So Retool's syntax is double curly brackets. So you just do that. And then we're going to select raw leads.data. And then from there, we want to filter down this data by a certain column. But let's hit the preview button, make sure that we can see what we have available. We have full name. Let's use that. That's probably going to be the best thing that we can use. Or there's, yeah, we'll probably just use that. We'll use full name and then maybe company name later. But so if we use full name, we need to reference full name from something. So what we're going to do is we're going to take an input box, text input, and we're going to plug it right into the header over here. And then this can serve as our name filter. So we're going to rename text input 1 to, let's call it filter name. Should call it filter by name, just to make it easy. We're actually going to take that and we're going to copy it. So that's Command C or Control C if you're on a PC, and then Command V or Control V if you're on a PC. Let's realign that. So now we have name and name. And instead of filter by name, we're going to actually mixed up the ordering of those two, but thanks to Retool, super easy to fix that. We can just drag and drop. So instead of text input 1, we're going to say filter by, and then company. That way we have a filter by name and a filter by company. Okay, so both of those are regular text fields. We're going to change this label to company so that we can tell the difference. And now what we'll do is where, and let's do open parentheses just to make this clean. I'll take this down a little bit. We're going to say full name, and remember, since there is a space here, the way you want to do the query is by using backticks. That's the button next to your one, to the left of your one, the little tick mark. Looks just like that. And then we're going to say full name equals, and then remember it's the double curly brackets, and then we're going to say filter by name.value. We're going to do the same thing for company name, so we'll just take that and copy it and place it down here, but instead of saying full name, we're going to say company name, and then instead of filter by underscore name, I'm going to do filter by company value and just get rid of the extra part of it. So now we have two things here. If we preview it, it should should, actually won't give us anything because these two are blank right now. So what we want to do, if I'm not mistaken, and bear with me, I think we're going to, actually instead of or, we should make this an and. You want to take your field and then put a exclamation mark in the front of it. And what this will do, we'll put an or between it. What this will do is it'll check to see if it's blank or equals the name. So if we run preview, that should do it. Let's add it up here as well. Hit the preview and boom, there. So now what it's doing is it's going to say, select all the columns from the raw leads data and where the filter name is not blank or the filtered name equals the full name and the company name is not blank or the company name is equal to the company name. So that's what it's doing. But instead of doing an equal, that's probably not great because like who's going to remember that, the full name of the client? No one's going to remember that. So instead of doing equals, what we'll actually do is we'll do what they call an I-like in Retool. And what I-like does is essentially it just does a fuzzy match. And in order to tell the system which terms to look between, you have to add a parenthesis, not a parenthesis, a percentage sign. So a percent sign would mean like anything matching before, at this point. So we'll do one before and then one after. That way we're saying anything that matches the value with whatever we wanted before it and whatever we want after it. So if we typed in Anna, it would match for things that are Dina or Anada or Anadia, like this. But it wouldn't match or something that was, say, ETNA because it doesn't have ENA directly in it. This is a fuzzy match. So we're going to actually do the same thing down here for the company name. I'm going to do I-like and then percent sign plus percent sign. And then when we run that, it should be good. And then once we do Anna up here, let's run it again. It's going to give us Anna. It's going to give us Kina. We do a space, that'll also include a space in it. And then if we do, let's say DA, that should give us Zena over here, just like that. Perfect. So this is working exactly how we want it to. So we can actually go ahead and save this, run it. And then now what we want to do is, because it's not actually doing anything, I'm going to click back on our table. And you notice it says raw leads.data. We don't want it to be raw leads anymore. If you remember, we actually want this to be filtered leads.data. And then we don't need that. So now this is using the filtered leads.data. Let me go here. It's going to update the data constantly. So we said Sabrina is going to filter this down. Exactly, that's exactly what we want, which is perfect. Let's actually X this out. Let's make sure this is working exactly as we want it to. So we can expand some of these tables here. Rodrigo, and he's part of hospitality. How many Rodrigos do we know? So let's say Rod. There's 3 of these choices, but we want the one with hospitality. So we can do that, and then boom. Now we're taking 2 different inputs and you can filter your list down. So there's a couple of other things that we're actually going to do today before we close out the video. We're actually going to show you how you can display the data. Instead of in a table, you can display it in a slightly different way just to make it easier to view for the user. So let's take this table down a little bit. We're going to insert a container. Let's do a tabs container. So what we'll actually do here is, let's say we're going to put this over here. For this table, what we'll do is we're going to shrink this down. And then we're going to hide a bunch of the information that we have in the table view. And you'll see in a little bit what I'm trying to do here. I'm actually just going to make this a better UX experience where information is readily available at all times. So we're going to remove that. I'm going to remove hospitality. So you can filter by any one of these. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to try to select something here and then have it display in here. So what we'll do is we'll insert a text. And then what we'll say here is table 1, select the row.data. And then we're going to display the full name. Just Princess, Sappho, Cherry Raw, perfect. So we have all that information. Let's actually take this, to copy it, paste it. And now we're going to change this one instead of saying full name. Let's say this is going to equal the company name. And we have a drop down here. I'm going to drag a drop down over. And then now we're going to make this drop down no label. I'm going to say the values. And those values are the same ones that we said before. So that's new. That's scheduled, in progress, closed, and lost. Okay. And the initial value is going to be equal to table 1.selectedrow.data.lead status. So like that. That way, so you can kind of see what I'm trying to do here. You can go through and have a way for your users to kind of come in here, click on a user or a lead, and it's going to change everything that's displaying. So Felix is lost. This is closed. Click on that, also closed. And I'll update as we go. Actually, notice that this was a little longer of a name, so we can adjust this. Super easy to adjust, this drag and drop. And then other data points that we might be interested in. Let's actually preview this so we can see down here what the data is that we're working with. So it'll be nice to display the address in the city. So maybe what we'll do is we'll add in the city and the address down here. So we have selected row equals company name, let's just do address. And what we can do here is, I think this is how we would do it. Yes. So what we can do is we can add in a line break or a BR, so a break tab. And then we'll do city. We'll take this, comma, we'll do state, and then a space. Nope, we don't have a zip code, so we don't need that. But yeah, so that's your address now, which looks good. That's the company name, address, and then the client name. So we can do the same thing for here, say name, colon, and then we can do company, colon. You can also, if you're familiar with HTML a little bit, you can do bold tags here, just so you can bold the label. There's definitely better ways to do it, but of course we'll just do it like this for now. So surely it looks fine. That's fine. So I'll actually say, let's say the address. And then you can add in all types of HTML in here. So we can do padding right. I thought that worked. Hold up. I guess this actually doesn't work anymore. That's okay. We don't need it. So we have the address, and then we can give it a BR here. Okay, boom, that works nicely. Okay, so we have the address, we have the company, we have the name. You can do this in a different way too. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it. You can just play around with what they have. There's a lot of different components that we can use here. So while we're at it, so they have multiple tabs. So if you want to display sales information about them, that's something that is also potentially possible. So we have MRR, and we can try to say how many times have we been billing them, but that's if we have another data set. But either way, so this has been a very basic kind of like dive into Retool and just ways that you can use it. So let me actually click the preview button here. Whoop. That is not in the plan, the free plan that we have. So let's just get rid of all this. And then the bottom. This is what it looks like. If you enter in, let's say Lava is someone here, right? Lava. You select this, and then it's going to display the information here. If we didn't know what the person's name was, we just need the first few letters. That's okay. You can do that as well. And you can search with both to make sure that that's the one that you're looking for. So pretty nice way to have a kind of very basic tool for yourself here. You can imagine that you can have your team update the information themselves. But in order to update the information, there's a little bit more work that you have to do. Part of that work is going to be sending a query or a way to update over to the spreadsheet. Luckily, this is kind of already built in to parts of it. So you can have bulk update by primary key, copy single sheet. You can do all that stuff, update a spreadsheet. So we selected this. It's going to give you a little bit of different information. That's not what we want. So let's bring this back to read data. And what you'd want to do is you want to create another resource query where it's updating the data. And then in order to the update values that you want to do is going to depend on the information that is being provided in your data set. So this data set over here. So if we were to do leads, we'd say brackets lead status colon, and then we'd say at the table, select the row data, and then we'd select lead status here. So if we were to change this to in progress, oh wait, that's not the one. That's my bad. That is record updates. And that's the array. So that's actually, we want drop down one. My bad. Drop down one dot value. And that's going to be in progress or closed. So if we save this, and then let's actually go back here. And what we'll do is we'll add in a query, not a query, a button to save the changes. So we can add this. Let's just add it here for now. Call it save changes. And then the query we're going to run is query query 3. We'll select that. Let's actually rename this to update status. So when we hit this button, it's going to send the information. So let's actually find cherry raw over here. So that's line 5. So right now the status is set to closed. So if I came over here and then said, actually no, we didn't close you, actually we lost it. We hit save. That runs. And there's an error. Wait, what was the error? Unprocessed entity. Oh, this is a problem. Oh, spreadsheet ID. Whoops. Make sure all your settings are done correctly before you submit a change there. So sheet name is leads. So I'm gonna do that. Okay, we're not filtering anything. Let's try that again. That's smaller. Actually save this first. And now we're saying lost, so let's make sure it still says closed, which it does. Go back to here, hit the button, update successfully ran. And if we go back to the spreadsheet, it should say lost now, which it does. So, which is good. And actually noticed made a small mistake there. Actually, everything is now set to lost. That's not what you want. So let's hit the. I'm gonna want to revert that. Luckily, you can revert that using history. Go back to the version history, and then let's go back to the one right before we made this change, which is April. So let's go to that. Restore. And while that's restoring, let's go back here. So what we need to do is we need to filter down the column. So if you have a unique key, our unique key is actually, I guess in this case, the name. So we're gonna do full name equals to the, so it's actually because we've selected the table value. I'm going to take the full name from there, and that way it matches up. Let's save that. Let's see here, did everything revert? Perfect. Okay, so we said that was 5 cherry raw. It's closed right now, and once we update that, everything else should stay the same, and this should be closed. So let's try it again. Lost, save. Hit that save button. Updates ran, and that did not seem to work. Did not work, right? No, it did not work. Why did it not work? Why didn't this work? So let's say it needs to be selected to this row. This equals cherry raw. So when we run this, it says that it ran successfully, but it didn't actually update. Let's filter by full name. I wonder if it's because I have it like that. What if I just did it like this? So if we hit the run button, does that work? Look at that. Okay, so quotes, don't put them. It's not going to work if you put quotes in them. Glad we did it together. I haven't done this part for a while. Mostly working with databases nowadays and API calls, but okay, this is good to know. Make a note. I'll put it in the description as well. Do not use quotes when you're filtering, when you're updating a spreadsheet and you're filtering the column name. So let's actually let's do that one more time. Let's actually change this back to closed. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's use our tool. So we'll go back here. Let's minimize this guy, and then actually let's go through the whole thing. So on this, back on cherry. It's actually the data needs to refresh. That's why it still says closed. So what we want to do actually, once this is done, we wanted to, after the query runs, we're going to do filtered leads again. We're going to run raw leads, and then we're going to run filtered leads again. We'll run both of those. And that is only triggered manually. So let's save this. And then we're going to run this again. Run this update, and then now that raw leads is updated, when we click on cherry, we see that it's set to lost. And this actually accidentally made that smaller. So okay, so now when we do this, we're going to select it into closed, and we're going to hit the save button. It's going to run. Success. So now all this data updates, and now it says closed here. We click off and click back on, it says closed. We go to our spreadsheet, it says closed now. Perfect. So that's how you update a spreadsheet. That's how you connect and read off of a spreadsheet in Retool, and that's how you connect and update data in a spreadsheet. So now we essentially have a read and write situation going on in our Retool app, and we have a nice little sidebar here to go through all of our clients. We can probably make this a little bit better by providing a little bit more information about them. So maybe a timestamp of when they came in. And we actually probably don't need all this room. We can give in company names as well. It's minor. And that way you can select items from this side. And then see the results on the side over here. We can set this to descending so that the newest leads always show up. We'll use timestamps as a way to do it. And then for the timestamp, that is date time and the local time zone. That's good. Align that to the other side. Yeah, all right. So this is looking great. We spent what, about 30 minutes on this. We got it all connected. Things are looking pretty smooth. Just remove all of this. Not fair. If you do have a regular paid account, you can preview it, and that way you have a version of it that you can hand out to people. On some of their paid accounts, they also let you generate a public URL for it that you can hide behind a password. The plans aren't that expensive. It's pretty cheap. I think it's like $10 or something like that a month. Let's actually bring it up. Why not? .com/pricing. I think they have a free plan. Yeah, then they have startup, which is $10 a month per user. This will give you the user modes, but then Pro gives you that that access to a public URL. So it's pretty cheap. I mean, compared to Salesforce, which is tens of thousands of dollars, you know, essentially depending on how big your team is. Whereas Retool is much more cheaper, and you can build all types of apps in here and have it updating people all the time. You can also you can do a lot here, honestly. No, we didn't show you guys too much of everything, just the way to filter the data, a way to read the data, and a way to update the data, and then just, you know, basic UI principles that you can do for it overall. But that's basically it for this video. I'm gonna sign off here, and then we're going to dive into Retool again in a separate video where we'll just do a little bit more cooler stuff with it. If you do have questions, you know, feel free to drop some comments in the section below. If you run into any issues or anything like that, you know, don't be shy, reach out. We're always here to help. And of course, if you like the video, please hit the like button so that other people like yourself can find this video and learn how to connect Google Sheets and Retool, or just like to start doing that. And hit the subscribe button so that you get updated once we do our next video and once we release that. And of course, the bell icon so you do receive those notifications. So like, subscribe, and bell, the typical 3 that you hear from other YouTubers. But either way, this is a guy called Joe. It's been a pleasure talking with you about bootstrapping tools and connecting Retool with Google Sheets. And we're going to see you again real soon. But for now, for bootstrapping tools, we're out.